This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. We're delighted you're here. And there's a link to all of your instructors at USAPrepares.com. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Matt is engineering the broadcast. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Welcome, Rick.
Morning.
Hey, Rick, just a little bit of a short story.
By the way, I love doing this radio with you. I just formally wanted to say it's been enjoyable because it keeps me current and on my toes.
Well,
we can in with those curveballs like today.
I've got a curveball right now, and last night, well, you remember when you were here? Did you see a backhoe? Case, right outside the studio, right? It's a backhoe. Well, we had a power shuttle problem with it, so I bought a rebuilt power shuttle, and that darn thing is heavy. It's like putting in a really heavy transmission. So our son and I decided we were going to tackle this, and we've never done one of these before, but that doesn't mean anything to us. We figured if somebody else can do it, we can certainly do it, and all we have to do is read about it and put our mind to it. And so I bought a replacement power shuttle, a rebuilt one, and it's like a couple 100 pounds. It comes on a pallet when it's really heavy. And so we had the backhoe all set, raised up safely, and we were going to work on this power shuttle from underneath, kind of like replacing a manual transmission or an automatic transmission, but really heavy. And so we bought I needed to buy a jack or a lift to put this thing up off the ground. And if you look around, and they're all made in China, and I didn't want to buy a Chinese one, so I found on Craigslist a guy that had an older one that would tilt left, right, front, back, and you could adjust it, and it would go up and down. And so I bought that used, but I had to put some new wheels on it. And we got the transmission in, and it took several weeks for us to get everything together in order to do this. And our son said, this is cause for celebration. Let's go to the Olive Garden. So my mom and Mrs. Finelli and I and our son and a friend went to the Olive Garden. We called one of our instructors up and said, hey, we're going to the Olive Garden. Would you like to come with us? And so he and his wife came. And so there were a bunch of us at the Olive Garden last night. And here's what I've noticed. Rick, I haven't been to the Olive Garden in a long time. Now, everything I'm saying is my opinion. So if the Olive Garden wants to sue, you're going to be suing me. Well... Now, the ladies at the front desk, when you go in there in the lobby, they'll take your name. Well, we had reservations, and I never use my real name. I always use an alias for reservations. Maybe it's because I don't want to be poisoned, but I'm not suggesting that the Olive Garden would poison me, but I never use my real name. So, and here are the people that are like judges. They really are. They've got a little bit of power over your life for the next 30 minutes, for example, because you go up there and they say, okay, your name, how many, smoking, non-smoking, that kind of thing. Actually, it's probably no smoking in the whole restaurant now. But they are in control of your life for the next 30 minutes, because if they if they put you ahead, you get in early, and everybody wants. I mean, who wants to wait in the lobby, right? So everybody's really polite to these ladies, but I'm wondering why they're not polite back. They don't have to be. They're the judges. They don't have to be polite. So eventually we get seated and we have a meal, and I'm listening to the music overhead, and it's not Italian music like it used to be. It is this new age stuff where they have musicians who can't play, writers who can't write, and singers who can't sing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this new music is horrible. Okay, and that's what they're playing. And who selects that? I guess that would be the judges in the front lobby, right? They probably select what they like, which is horrible. But anyway, so we have a wonderful meal, and but it's smaller than it used to be. The price is up 20% and it's smaller. So probably an average of 30% inflation is what my estimation is. But here's like the icing on the cake. We get the ticket, or the what do they call this? They call this it doesn't even say the check. We get the check, and it has the subtotal amount, which is the amount for the food and beverages, and it has the sales tax, and it has the total, and then it says a suggested tip amount, 15%, 18%, and 20%. So how did we get to the point where a restaurant is now telling you how to calculate the tip? And my point is, I don't take direction very well. I really don't. And I object to a restaurant telling or suggesting a tip amount. But the question I have, is it because we have become so dumb in the United States of America that we can't calculate 10, 15, 20, 25, 30%, whatever we would want to leave as a tip?
Yes, that is exactly correct. I have a little ditty that shows how the constructs of even understanding mathematics changes from one generation to another. It's unbelievable, actually. It is the truth. Watch someone at a fast food restaurant try to count change back to you.
Oh, it can't be done. It absolutely.
That's what I'm telling you. It's embarrassing. And we were supposed, the deal for the universe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rick, we've got a caller, William from Mississippi. William, you're on with Dr. Richard Allen Miller and me, Vin Finelli.
Good morning, Vince. It was good talking. Good morning. It was good talking to you after the show yesterday, and I'm calling in as I said I would. And also wanted to start off by thanking you, Dr. Rick, for your interest in what you put out on your research and on Morgellons. And I've been to your website, Dr. Miller, and I looked at all the information that you had, the 5 or 6 articles that you had on Morgellons. And if it would be okay, Vince, could I just, I wrote down some things. Could I just kind of go over these things?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
And let me just preference this. Rick, William and I were talking yesterday, and he says that he suffers pretty seriously from the effects of these Morgellons, and that's why why he's on with us today. So please go ahead, William.
Okay. Well, number one, the reason to open up is to encourage others and to give credibility to those who are suffering or know somebody who is, and it is great suffering. And there's secondary problems such as financial issues, family and friends and relationships, self-doubt, and
it goes downhill from there. Gotcha.
Okay, and disbelief, and it's very baffling. But and Dr. Rick, I wanted to say that I've heard your talking about it as from the Columbia shuttle, and there could be a connection there. And when I looked it up, I found out that not only did they recover a canister, one of 3 canisters, they continued the experiments on subsequent shuttle experiments.
Yeah, I don't know if what I wrote is true. I was connecting dots when I did that back there. It would appear that Morgellons is most likely a kind of nematode infection. We have nematode in our body, but this nematode may have crossed species with the xenosphere and with bacteria that is essentially alien, if you will, to the planet Earth self where nematode is normally found. And as such, the vector where it fell from Texas, it was actually Florida all the way into California, mostly in Texas. That's where it first started, and now it's starting to spread. And my guess, there may be a geoengineering connection by accident. I don't know that it was done intentionally, but there may be this other bacteria that they're using to create the polymer. I think they've gone and created some Frankenstein-type nematode, and that is my guess. Now, with that said, nematode is easily eradicated in the body. And so while once your doctor knows what he's trying to treat, then it becomes a more straightforward process. Mostly they don't know what it is, and in fact, because of its alien form to it, you can see lots of different people doing studies. The Center for Disease Control is the one that should be doing this, and somehow they're not really picking up the ball. And this is after 3 years of, steady stuff. The Challenger itself, I talked, it was a couple nights ago on Rents about HARP and how they're creating the chemtrail like a waveguide, and they're doing things. The whole thing is a nightmare. It's like they're going to change us into transhumans, where we have some kind of interface with computers in our body directly. I don't know where this is going. This is what I'm just now starting to uncover.
William, hold that thought. Rick, hold that thought. I'll hold it. We'll be right back. We're talking about Morgellons, fibers that are embedded in the skin. This is USAPrepares.com. I'm Vin Finelli. Class, the freeze-dry guy asked me quite some time ago to do a broadcast on Morgellons. And so here we are. Now, psychiatrists view Morgellons as as evidence of someone who is delusional or has a psychosomatic disorder. Now, in the same line of thinking, the mainstream media calls us, USAPrepares.com and our class, and those like us, conspiracy theorists. Now, I suggest that mainstream media, just for once, just stop reading the script, look up, look down, look around. The evidence of conspiracy fact is all around us, including on the guest check at the Olive Garden, where it's obvious that they believe that people in America cannot figure percentages for tips. Rick, Morgellons, it's believed to be fibers. It's believed to be fibers in the skin that cause itching. And so some people go to dermatologists. They go to their medical doctors. But William, there are people who have this or suffer from this are treated as like there's something mentally wrong with them. Is that what you've experienced?
Yes, Vince. and in saying that, it causes great suffering from family, friends, relationships, and because of disbelief, and you do get that from doctors. And as far as CDC goes, there was as Dr. Miller knows, a CDC study done, but it was done in Northern California, not necessarily in the areas. I'm down here in Mississippi. I have a medical background. I was a nurse and a medic, and then have a associate degree in nuclear medicine technology, which is diagnostic medicine from GWU. But I wanted to touch on the cross between a bacteria and a nematode. That made a lot of sense, but you have to throw in there nanotechnology, not only biotechnology. That would be a biotechnology type thing, but it seems to have a nanotechnology component to it. And in reviewing some videos that other people had done who had access to more medical equipment, I don't. There seems to be a real nanotechnology. My wife and I sort of moved away from the medical field to start a blueberry farm. We got 20 acres down here in Mississippi and started growing blueberries.
You're also known as William Dirt McLean, then.
That is my nickname, and my wife. Right.
I love it. Cool. I'm looking at your picture right now. I'd vote for you.
Okay. Yeah, I ran for county constable, and my wife ran for state representative here in the little town that we live in Mississippi.
Gotta come up and start a network with Vincent becoming sheriff up here, and good gosh, who knows what could come out of this whole thing. A little bit of seceding from the Union and becoming provincial.
Well, at least we were able to give a alternative viewpoint, and we got to do our 4-minute speeches at the podium in downtown in front of the library. And but dirt, it has a number of reasons. One is organic gardening, and it's hard to call you anything bad if you're already as low as dirt. So and it keeps me humble too.
William, would you share with our radio class some of the symptoms that you have experienced, that some of the physical symptoms that you've experienced from this?
Yes, I will, and then I wanted to go into some thoughts about solutions too. Okay, but you talked about fibers, and yes, that was involved, but there were also, and I used the term worm, not saying it is a worm, worm-like is what I should say, and these are an eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch in size. And so it's not just fibers, it's actual worms, and when they're in your body, they tend to be spread out, and then as they exit, they tend to turn in.
Well, William, let me ask you this. When we come back from this break, would you tell us if you can see these on your skin, exiting your skin? William from Mississippi is with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, and we're talking about Morgellons. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. William from Mississippi is with us. William, we're talking about Morgellons, worms an eighth to a quarter of an inch long. Can you see them coming out of your skin?
Yes, I can. I'll address that issue and answer that question. But Dr. Miller sent me a paper that he did in 2007, and it's multi-symptomatic, and this was not a part of my symptom at first. He listed the physical symptoms may include headaches, fatigue, memory loss, unexpected weight changes, sleep problems, joint pain, skin rash, digestive problems. And that just hits the nail on the head so strong because, those are all just a major part of it. And in my case, I was barefoot and outside, and we have fire ants here, and it makes organic gardening very challenging. They get into your compost and your garden and everything, and you don't want to use any. It makes this is why we were trying to get a little bit of soil up in Northern California. We right now have our property up for sale and trying to make a move closer to family and better soil. But I got bit by an ant between a couple of toes, and a strange scab formed around it, kind of a rubbery, not a crusty, but a little rubbery scab. It was a strange scab started, and then up my right leg, the top of my right foot became numb, as in neuropathy, and I could actually feel it going up my right leg, crossing my pelvis, going down my left leg, and then moving up my body trunk and up into my head. And this was from August 2011 till August or summer of 2012, and that's when these worms, and I use that term descriptively, it started to appear, and they can react as you're trying to catch a fly. You could feel them move under your skin, and it's not a crawly sensation. It's actual and factual, and a lot of this I could be wrong or not, and I'm just, this is subjective. And,
okay, here, look, I hear the stress also in your voice, and not to fear yet. Okay, don't, there's plenty of herbs that you could be doing that will take out nematode, including garden dill. Dillweed has carbones in it that will attack the nematode. I don't know if it's going to touch this mutated, and I'm only guessing it's a mutated form of nematode. When you get bit by a fire ant, you're going to get all kinds of creepy crawlies from the soil. That's the hazard of working in gardens, and especially in warmer climates where the nematode can actually spread. What I use in companion planting to take out nematode, and you might even consider ingesting some of this, is creeping thyme. The thymols are in creeping English thymes. I did that for San Michele in a grape vineyard up in Washington, and it actually will change the bricks of sugar too. That's a secret, so you can get a better grape from just this, this companion planting. However, the primary ones you're looking for are insecticides that are natural forms, and dill, cassia, the cinnamon. Cinnamon will also do that. I'd start eating cinnamon toast. No, I'm not kidding. But mindful of the sugars that will be used by these worms to multiply. And so it's a simple project if you're nematode infected. I work in the fields and have had nematode. It's not a problem. The morgellons acts, if you look at the vectors on it, it acts a lot like a nematode. That's what led me to connect the dot to the possible Challenger experiments, where there is a movie that you could watch. It's a science fiction movie. Vincent's going to love this one. It's called Monsters. And what happens is they're bringing a life form back from Jupiter, and it explodes by accident in the ionosphere. And what happens next is that Mexico has to be roped off from the rest of the world because it has monsters growing in it that are not from Earth, and they have mutated with Earth things and created a whole new thing. And this is a movie about what happens when you cross species. And when you go places like into the stars or off Earth, you will encounter other kinds of bacteria and life forms, and the two were probably genetically never meant to connect with each other, and now they are. And you get what you get from that. Who knows what it's going to be? And this is one of the reasons why when we experiment with things like GMOs, GMO concepts are not bad. It's what is the unknown part of how that we do not know how the genes are going to affect. Chemtrails right now are killing organic crops, yet GMO crops are impervious to this barium oxide and the bacteria. That means the geoengineering may change our agriculture, so we're forced to eat GMOs. How's that one feel? And nematode is a common thing in the field. It's a worm, it's a roundworm. And we have them in our bodies. It's just when you get a foreign one like this or a mutation, your body is inequipped to defend it. And there may be some other directions that you can explore as well. I'm just starting to research it because there is a flare of Morgellons now since when I wrote that paper originally in 2007.
Rick, my research...
Dr. Miller, I would like to address the possible cure, and I sort of might have a different point of view on certain things.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, let's tell me what you're thinking of. This is fertile ground. Let's go for it.
Okay, yes. One thing I've heard you say, we're 10% human, and then we're 90%...
a bunch of other things. Yes.
This,
including nematode, by the way, I might add, yes.
People with Morgellons have tried cinnamon, silver colloid, oregano oil, antibiotics.
Yeah, those are all the terpene alkaloids and so on, yes.
And I don't think, just like this might be a metaphor, it's not what enters the body or enters your mouth, but what comes out is defiles you, and in this case, infects you or whatever, or cures you.
Well, it's taking its energy from ATP, by the way. And
I was going to say that when to address whether these things, they can pop out, they can be brushed off, they can re-enter your skin or try to get back under it if they know that they're being messed with. And during this 3 months...
You're saying it has a consciousness or awareness of hostility?
Well, no, like a bug, like a fly or something of an insect.
Yeah, that will scurry a certain way as a survival move. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes, it's amazing how even a little tiny fly knows that you're trying to get it.
It doesn't know you're trying to get it. It's working off cavitation. We can talk about that later, but I gotcha.
Reaction, yes. And
it would appear that the fly is knowing you're trying to irritate you. Flypaper is wonderful. Once they're on that piece of flypaper, they just sit and kick and scream, and it's lovely.
But I collected about 100 of these samples and brought them. I had to go to San Francisco. I felt like I was getting nowhere here in Mississippi. And when they come
What about the university? I'm certain there's some graduate students. That's who you want to seek out, is an open professor that can give you a couple of graduate students. I absolutely am doing similar things out here in our little universities, and they're small. But the University of Mississippi, I would think, would have hundreds of graduate students interested in wanting to study this. Absolutely.
I would really like to go into the a solution or a cure, and Dr. Miller, you're knowledgeable in these areas, and you talk about from the gut. But one thing I'd like to say is that when they come off of you, they have about 1 or 2 minutes, and they change shape. They become serrated. At first, they're skin color, or and they kind of turn more dark brown, and they change shape. They can become segmented, and it's like they're running out of energy or ATP, as you mentioned.
That's correct. That is the current belief. I've tried, since your emails to me, I've tried to, I've been really busy, but I'm trying to run as quick as I can to pick it up here. Yeah, I think there's, what it's doing is it dies. And so it needs something in the body to survive, and all you have to do, I'm working on a new concept in structured water and have created a white paper I sent to Vincent on what's called EZ water, exclusion zone water. There's a controversial thing with a bunch of scientists debating it. My lead physicist that hired me to work for military is the one that wrote the fourth phase of water, and that's possibly a new direction that we're going to go in. It's my opinion that geoengineering is causing micro dehydration in the body, and that is the root cause of all diseases. And there is now mounting evidence that when you rehydrate the body with what we call super waters, and there's very many different kinds, from Kerry Reams and Rife, all of them have written about this, that would seem that even cancer is a direct result of being micro dehydrated, because basically what's happening is this desiccant, that's what it is now inside the body and desiccating the cell on a nanometer level. That means 10 to the minus 9, where a cell wall is at least 100 times larger. That's such a small particle going through there. It's like an asteroid going through the solar system. And so,
Rick, we're going into a break. Hold that thought. William, hold your thoughts, and we're going to come back and talk more about nematodes. We're back, and during the break, I posted 3 pictures of nematodes. Oh, boy, are they...
You love horror movies. I know you do.
This is a horror movie. I'm not kidding, Rick. I've got one picture of a nematode in a person's eye, and it looks like a snake, a worm under the white of the eye. Another one is a picture of nematodes on a person's foot, worms underneath the skin, and another one is on the hand. It is absolutely disgusting. I'm very, very serious about it. So if you want to see what we're talking about, some of these nematodes, and Rick and William, my research shows that these things are everywhere on the planet. They're in the ocean. They're at the seafloor. They are in the water supply. They're in people. They're in animals. They're in the soil. They're everywhere.
There is one of the food chain. It's not a big deal.
Guys, we'll have to, just one of us at a time. We have, what we're experiencing right now is a long delay between all of us, or among all of us. So just one at a time, and we'll get through it. Go ahead, Rick.
Nematode and worms are part of the food chain. They're in everything because they're part of life. Mm-hmm. They serve an extremely important function, and what you don't want is for them to get out of control. I don't know if Morgellons is connected to geoengineering. I don't know that. And I don't know what Morgellons really is. The Center for Disease Control has not come to the plate on that one. And I don't understand why they won't do that. It might be that the vectors are going to show that it was an accident or something. I don't know. Parasitic infection, this is what causes all your lower bowel distress and all the rest of it, like Montezuma's revenge. Mm-hmm. It's and if it's mutated, I'm concerned.
William, do you have any photographs of your nematodes?
Yes, and I do not want to call them nematodes because, as Dr. Rick said, this still to be answered, and the CDC does not seem to be doing this. For a third talking point, I wanted to go over what I thought was a cure or solution.
Okay.
And if I could go over that and then get Dr. Miller's feedback on it, but there's maybe 3 metaphors or spiritual concepts. It's not, and one I already mentioned, it's not what enters the man, but what comes out. In other words, it's what your interior landscape or belief system. And another one, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And another one is faith, or comes from hearing truth or the word God. And I would like to just go over some several points. It will just take me a moment. first off, you need the right environment. And I took 2 trips to Northern California where I could be in the right environment. Now, diet it is important. I have that as number one because it is an issue. Now, herbal and pharmaceuticals, I do not include it. Diet, like I mentioned before, we're 10% human and 90% community of other things. But to quote you, Dr. Miller, and the second one is the integration of self. And you can find that through following your passions, creativity, joy, gardening, in my case, and music. And I don't think that the body recognizes it, and that's why it does not. Antifungals and other stuff, it almost has human DNA. In fact, it might incorporate your own DNA. I don't know. That's speculation.
William, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going into top of the hour break, and if you'd like to hold through, we can hold you through. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, and go over what I think.
All right, hold that thought. We'll come back right after top of the hour news and commercials. This is USAPrepares.com, talking about Morgellons, nematodes, with Dr. Richard Allen Miller and William from Mississippi. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. With Dr. Richard Allen Miller, William is held over from hour number 1. We're talking about nematodes, and we're talking about Morgellons. And just a quick announcement. For those of you who would like to call in, we've been asked to provide that number, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. One more time, 866, toll free, 866-582-9933. That's for USAPrepares.com right here. And meet up Monday night. Meet up Monday night, Ziggy's, in Springfield, Missouri, corner of Sunshine and Glenstone. Marjorie Wildcraft will be with us live via teleseminar. And Marjorie believes that if you are not producing at least some of your own food, and if you're not a producer, if you're a consumer, you're going to have a really tough time surviving what's ahead. And we're going to be talking about that. So those who are producers will fare far better than those who are consumers. Mark my words. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, William, Rick, did you want to start off with where we left off with
I'm more
nematodes?
interested to hear. Yeah, I'd like to have him tell us what he thinks is cure.
All right. William, you're on with your solutions to curing this nematode and Morgellon problem.
Yes, and after I have 6 brief points, maybe I can go through them. But I intuitively knew and know, and this is subjective, what I needed to do. And it wasn't an herb, it wasn't an antibiotic, it wasn't an anti-parasite medicine. It was a discipline of mind over matter, or faith, or a spiritual one. And one thing, number 1 is diet, because it does have that was I intuitively knew. The second one, integration of self, and this is finding joy or passion in your life and creativity. Pursue those things. And your laughter, both of you, laughter is the best medicine, they say. Number 3, it's from the inside out, from the mind's eye to reality. And as I said before, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And number 4, your belief system or internal landscape. And 5, intuitively moving to the true purpose or of yourself or God's will. Well, number 6, true will or God's will, and that's part of number 5, and then 6 is prayer and faith and meditation, and I did something called mindfulness meditation, and I had to get alone, and I had to go through discipline, and this, it does react to mind over matter, and I think that is the solution or the cure. It's pretty helpful.
You're preaching to the choir here. We're singing your song. I mean, it sounds like you've been reading my works. Yes.
Which went along right with what I intuitively knew a year before I was even introduced to with you. But yes, you've spoken of all these things, and I believe that they coincide, Dr. Miller.
Go ahead, Vincent. Your turn. Well, there it is. It's about, okay, I am now researching how belief or thought structures the water in your body. They're doing some actual university studies on that using Raman spectrophotometry, where they can show that the properties of water change with thought. Now, how that works, there's models and theories and all of that that are out there, and there's controversial action, and I don't know. But it is reproducible and repeatable. And what you're suggesting is taking it on a more individual process and actually taking charge of the thoughts you choose to entertain. And there you are. That's what makes the reality of our current situation. Now, apocalypse is part of the bigger picture as a collective unconscious. It's always going to be there, the doom and gloom of plague. The four horsemen. There they are. That's part of our belief system in the length, girth, and width of what man is. But it's, overcoming and changing things. What I'm working on now, believe this or not, is a kind of a strange thing called changing timelines. And it does have to do with these new concepts of EZ water. It's interesting. What happens with this extra hydrogen atom that's added to make it H3O2 is that it bends the bonds. And what I'm discovering is the geometry is what makes it significant, and why a diamond and graphite are identically the same thing, and yet they are completely different in behavior and properties. The same is true with water. And I now believe that our selection of water may become even more important than our selection of foods with organic and GMO. I think it's a layer of the hologram, and we're getting down to the quantum mechanical level of the importance of how water changes everything.
Rick, I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something, because one of the things that we're going to talk about.
Breakfast and dinner. You are setting intentionality with prayer. That's why the church will make vampire water, kills vampires, by holy water. That idea of intentionality and the way it gets pushed into the physical world is now redefining what we call the physical world. More gelance. There's going to be creepy crawlies. The thing that you're doing is attacking it from the other side, which is exceptional. That is evolution.
I agree with you, Dr. Miller. It kind of goes down to that Schrodinger's cat analogy, and that mind over matter, or...
Okay, now the timeline thing I'm talking about is that it's no longer about Schrodinger's cat. It's about Schrodinger's cat house. There's lots of cats, and some of them are dead, and some of them are alive. And so I call it Schrodinger's cat house, and you have choices.
Yes, I think there is, and letting your consciousness affect possible outcome. I've heard that, at every moment it's like there's Y's in the road, and it's choosing those roads. And perhaps
you mentioned one other word that in your earlier part that hit dead on when you said you sought your joy.
of a cure or a solution for this Morgellons.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think you're onto it. By George, I think he's got it. The rain in Spain.
Rick, you had mentioned.
It's fun, isn't it?
Off the air.
To be on the edge and see the possibilities.
You mentioned that graphite and diamonds are the same thing, yet completely different. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about after this segment is supercritical fluid. And and that's similar, Rick, because we're talking about water can be a solid, it can be a gas, it can be a liquid, and it can be something even different if you increase the temperature and pressure.
Phase of water. Actually, water has 18 phases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a bumpy ride, and maybe we're not even going to have to concern ourselves with Morgellons or Fukushima shortly.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to share with William, Dr. Norman Shealy's been on this broadcast with me for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been teaching, and he's experienced this, where some of his patients have harbored bad thoughts, negative thoughts, that have brought on disease. And he's told these patients that if you have these thoughts, you've got to get rid of them or you can die from it. And so what he's done is he's changed a person's thinking process from bad, negative, evil, hating someone, to the point where it's like taking poison, according to him, and hoping that the other person dies. Where he seriously, he said that having these thoughts is like taking poison, hoping the other person dies, and yet he has told some of his patients that you've got to stop this, and if you do, you can reverse these diseases and these maladies, and it's worked. It's absolutely worked. So the reason I'm bringing this up, William, is I think you've got some very valid points here. There's a lot that goes into telling the body that it can fix itself. And if you tell...
placebo aside, we already know that at least 50% of healing occurs in what you think is happening. And here's the more interesting thing. The experiments I'm seeing now on intentionality have a start and stop point, yet the change seems to occur when you made the decision to start a program. In other words, it's not about doing it, it's about the intentionality of, okay, I'm going to do it. That, like ESP, is when it happened.
William, I want to thank you for being with us at William, I want to thank you for being with us at usaprepares.com today.
Briefly on what you just said.
You got 6 seconds.
It moves you, intentionality moves you into the area of synchronicity or God's will.
There you go. Yep.
Thanks so much, William. We'll be right back. Rick, I posted an article. I stayed up till late one night writing this article about an explosion. And it's at the Prairie State Energy Campus in Washington County, Illinois. And what I said was, there's this power generation plant in Illinois, and it's a coal-fired power generation campus. They have on site a coal mine, and they have two steam, if you will, generation plants that are powered through the heat of this burning of coal. And I say in this post that on the surface, the facility seems to be a model of innovation, efficiency, and engineering. So they're mining coal and burning the coal on the same campus where there are two generation systems. And there was an explosion over the Memorial Day weekend. And I show a picture of this explosion, and we're the only ones that have this post. No one seems to pick it up. I've sent it to Alex Jones. I've sent it to lots of places. But no one seems to be running with this story. And I believe it's because it's financial in nature. I'll tell you why in just a minute. So over the weekend, there was this explosion. Something happened to one of the steam vessels or one of its connected components. And there's a hole blown in the side of this building. It's, in my estimation, it's about 40 feet high by about 50 feet long. So it's a pretty significant hole. And our sources, and we've gotten calls asking, who are your sources? We're not telling. Our sources... our sources...
Show them your pearl handle gun. Your pistol.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, Rick, here's what happened. This power generation system was brought online in 2012. It's been problematic, and it uses something called supercritical fluid. Now, what that is it's heating a fluid and increasing the pressure to the point where it's no longer a solid, it's no longer a liquid, it's no longer a gas, it's different. And it's under very high pressure. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be in that building personally. And I'll tell you why. Rick, you've been in our garage where we have an automotive shop, and we have a compressor, and it will compress air to 135 pounds. I don't want to take that compressor, even though it's tested and certified that it can stand it. I don't want to take it to 136 pounds because I'm afraid that thing is going to explode.
And, you know, there's many different ways that CO2 is used as a solvent. And the one I use in the herb trade is liquid carbon dioxide. You know, that's very cold because the molecules we're trying to take out of it, solvent, are very fragile. And so we work at a very cold temperature. Critical high end is dangerous, even in big plants. We had one that did hexane back in Yakima, and it was 6 square blocks, huge plant. And this, the vertical integration part of it is hot. I like that idea. It's a self-contained unit, and it doesn't need anything from the outside to function. But when you go in the pressures that we're talking about and temperatures we're talking about, the material sciences involved have to be state-of-the-art. And we were back even in the 70s when I was doing stuff like that. We were working with stainless steel, and it wasn't 306 or 302. We were in 326, and very high-end forms of stainless. And I can only imagine an explosion that size. Good gosh, that's
Rick. Well, let me tell you why I'm concerned. There are some reports going on right now. I believe there's a big cover-up about this, a huge cover-up. And I'll tell you why. I posted the article. It's about money. I posted the article about midnight on the 27th. On the morning of the 28th, I received a phone call from the government, like 8 hours later, from the government. I'll tell you about that when we come back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. We're talking about the explosion at Prairie State Energy Campus, a power generation station. So we're talking about the Prairie State Energy Campus. And on their website, they say that the on-site coal mine produces 7 million tons per year of coal, over $22 billion in economic impact over the next 30 years. It produces 800 megawatts of power from each of its 2 units for a total of 1,600 megawatts of power, when both units are operational. And it provides 2.5 million families with electricity every day. There is a statement that was released by the Prairie State Energy Campus, and let me read it to you. It says, Marissa, Illinois, Prairie State Energy Campus power plant is comprised of two 800 megawatts units. Unit number 1 is in startup and will be producing power for its 9 owners today. Now, this was just released yesterday, the day after we broke the story. On Saturday morning, while Prairie State was taking Unit 2 offline for a scheduled maintenance outage, a water storage tank overflowed, resulting in an unexpectedly high release of steam and water that damaged the siding and associated equipment. That's very much what we said happened in our. We didn't say it was scheduled, but we said that there was an explosion. And let me tell you, just a high release of steam. When you see the side of this building, it blew 40 by 50 feet off the side of the building. Okay, and then we said that there were no injuries that we knew of, and this update from Prairie State says all of the employees and workers on the site are safe. No explosion or fire or injuries occurred. Neither the boiler nor the turbine generator was damaged. The unit will be returned to service after repairs to the storage tank and siding are complete. Unit 2 is expected to be back online, producing power for most of the summer. Now, the reason that I posted this is because this is a story about financial impact as well as the facility taking offline the generation unit. Now, Prairie State has investors. The investors are municipalities. There is a backstory to this where there's alleged fraud. There's alleged fraud and misrepresentations about the construction costs and other financial representations. So, 8 members of this, there are 8 consortium members who are buying power from this energy generation campus. And they want to know about the real numbers. Now, if one of the units is taken out of service, that means 50% of the power generation is offline. That means about 50% of the revenue has stopped. That further complicates the financial picture of Prairie State Energy Campus. So there's a big story here, and none of the news, just try searching Prairie State Energy Campus and see if you can find a story. We're the only ones carrying this. I think this is big news. So they say that there's reports that it was just a little problem. A little problem does not blow a 40-foot by 50-foot hole in the side of a building. Honestly, that doesn't happen. And Rick, the reason that I'm bringing this up, or another reason, is that I believe that the Environmental Protection Agency is pressuring companies to use less energy to become more efficient. And one of the ways that we're becoming more efficient is using supercritical fluids, fluids that we don't really know that much about. We really don't. And we're pushing the limits of pressures and temperatures. And if you think about it, 3,500 pounds per square inch is a pretty high pressure. And air conditioning systems. If you have the latest technology in air conditioning systems, like even a company like Lennox, you're looking at about 350 pounds per square inch of pressure within your air conditioning system, right in your home. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
And I'm uncomfortable, Rick, with 136 pounds in my 135-pound rated compressor in the garage. I really don't like to hear the compressor straining up to those pressures. Now, sometimes we need those pressures to do inflation of tires and things like that where we need a lot of air volume, but I still don't like it. So what I'm saying is I think we're pushing the limits in the pursuit of higher efficiency. How much higher efficiency are we talking about? Well, a coal-fired subcritical system would be about 39% efficient. Well, if you increase it to supercritical, you can raise that level up to 45%. The delta there is about a 15% increase in efficiency. So while that is really nice to have increased performance of 15%, is it worth the risk? I don't know. It seems like we just had an explosion. Now, had anyone been in the vicinity of that little leak that blew out a 40-foot by 50-foot side of the building, I think there would have been serious injuries and possibly death. What are your thoughts on that, Rick?
I'm interested in the first part you said about the fraud angle and misrepresenting quality control, quality assurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's another component to this, and that is spare parts. Imagine the way the United States used to be. During World War II, we had steel plants in this country. That's now considered the Rust Belt. We used to have steel plants that could make steel. We had forges. We made everything from start to finish. We made everything in this country. And now we don't. So where is the spare turbine going to come from? Should we need a spare turbine?
It's $2 an hour to $10 an hour for minimum wage. That's one of the reasons why there is no gross national product anymore. And what do you think that does to your pride? And the educational system, we used to be 6th in the world. Now we're 26 or something. It's an embarrassment. And really, yeah, it's really about being complacent. It all starts, like Dirt was saying, internal landscape.
According to my Olive Garden guest check, we're last, Rick.
Yeah, I know.
We're last.
I know.
We can't even.
You can't figure it, so they have to do it for you. This is crazy.
We can't move a decimal point to figure out 10% if that's the amount of tip we're going to use, and we can't figure out, okay, if our check is $100 and we want to give a 10% tip, we can't move the decimal place over so we can say, oh, that'd be a $10 tip. Well, no, that's not enough. Let's make it 15%. That'd be 1.5 times 10%. That'd be $15. Well, maybe that's not enough. I mean, we can't figure out how to calculate a tip on a restaurant check. I mean, seriously.
No, it's kind of scary.
It is. So my concern, Rick, is that
that's what we'll use, new math.
And that was the problem that I had over the weekend, and I'm still kind of stomping around about what I'm calling the high cost of cheap goods. And here's what I mean.
That's right. Now you've got it. That's a good statement.
I was at an auto parts store yesterday with our son. We needed to buy 14 feet of 5/8 inch heater hose for this backhoe that we have. And I said to the guy, I was in an independent auto parts store just like this when I was about 17 years old. And it wasn't a chain. It wasn't like AutoZone. It wasn't like Advance Auto. It wasn't like O'Reilly's Auto Parts. It was an independent, just like I went yesterday. And I said, I cut my thumb on this cheap Chinese connector, this air quick disconnect that I have on the compressor, because I'm having a tough time finding American-made parts at a reasonable cost. We used to have companies that Lincoln used to make air tool components. How do you find them today? Well, I've got this,
and Craftsman. That's the way it used to be.
Yeah, but a Snap-on wrench is probably $40 a piece today. A Snap-on screwdriver is probably $20. Well, if you go to some of these other places, and they even have American names on these Chinese products, well, the fit and finish isn't right. So I sliced up my thumb on a quick disconnect air hose fitting because the Chinese don't take the extra step to radius, some of the rough edges. They just don't do that. Where the Americans used to do that as just a natural course of building the products. They would never have these sharp, rough edges. It was just unthinkable But now we have these Chinese products, and you don't know the company that manufactured them. They're relabeled and relabeled by different companies, so you really don't know who the manufacturer is. You don't even know who to go to complain.
It gets worse than that. When I was working in the herb trade, we would farm something like feverfew, harvest that, and put it in a cargo box and ship it to China so that they could capsulate and tablet it and sell it back at Walmart as Kirkland Pharmaceutical. That is the reality of it. It was cheaper to capsulate and tablet it with the Teamsters and the Arabs getting a piece of that action than it was to do it domestically here in the United States.
And that's kind of what I'm referring to as the high cost of cheap products.
Nothing is really cheap, and the way they're doing it, the whole concept of mass production as opposed to local infrastructure is going to be it's a petrodollar. Watch what happens now that Putin has signed that agreement with Iran and China, and watch what happens this next year to the dollar and the petrodollar. The whole thing about using oil and gasoline, and listen, it's time to revision everything we do.
Rick, when we come back, let's talk about the chemtrail cough. Chemtrail cough class coming up. I think it's coming to a place near you. We'll be right back. Rick, I wanted to mention that I got a call from Brian Cummins, and he is a councilman from Cleveland, Ohio, and he is involved in one of the consortium who own the Prairie State Energy Campus. It's one of the 8 organizations.
Oh, you're being listened to. Good, cool.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just checked Google statistics. And as a result, I believe, of posting that, our web visits are up by a factor of 3. And I have a
by
feeling...
the way, I wanted to personally thank you for introducing me to Grace Thorne and Ed Marvini. They are absolutely... I just wanted to make that thank you to you on introducing me to both of them. They're doing a first-class job with me. We're very happy.
Well, they're both very, very wonderful people. Grace Thorne, of course, is our 6th grade teacher in Ryan, Oklahoma. Ed Marvini is a guy who listened to me on another network, and he and I talked, and he decided I needed a website update. And he rebuilt the entire website.
He's excellent, yeah.
He is. He rebuilt the website top to bottom, left to right. And
he's reconstructing mine now back into WordPress, and I have to tell you, I'm lucky to have met him. I didn't think, my webmaster, he was my dear friend. He died unexpectedly, and then my site got hacked, and now Ed's helping me recover.
Well, I think Ed Marvini will help protect you from being hacked in the future because we have not yet been hacked. Rick, I wanted to say that before we get into chemtrail cough very quickly, I'd like to mention that I decided to have a little event here at the farm on July 6th. And, of course, you're invited. And so all of our on-air personalities and instructors are invited to come to the farm on July 6th. And if you have not gotten your invitation through an email, it's not because we didn't send it, it's because it didn't get there. And we're having a lot of problems with emails. CenturyTel, I think, is preventing emails from coming to us and going out from us. At least that's what I'm hearing from some of our instructors. So that's July 6th. Give me a call if you're one and you need directions or you want to make it to the farm. So, of course, Rick, you're invited. And Joey, one of our researchers, called yesterday, and he and I were on the phone. He said, "What can we do to get Rick to come to the farm?" I said,
"Oh, wait, and tell Joey I have been trying to send him email, and I am not being able to get it. All bounces. I've sent Joey probably 10 attempts. I do it once every couple of days, and it bounces."
And that's what I'm saying is happening to us. I'm getting communications from our instructors.
I get Joe's emails. I really appreciate them, Joey. Thank you.
Yes.
But I can't respond when he asks. When you ask me a question, I'm not able to respond. It bounces.
And that's what's happening to me. And people are saying, Vinny, are you mad at me? And I go,
No.
no, I'm not. And, how come?
Joey thought there was something wrong with me because I wasn't corresponding or dialoguing. Some of my other friends like Jano are in little turf wars and, down in the trenches right now. But I can't get a hold of Joey. No way I can send him anything.
Well, I'll send you his phone number. Rick, chemtrail cough, really quickly. I have it. It's this cough. And I can't shake it, and a lot of other people have it, and I hear it all over the Ozark Mountains. And very quickly, what are your thoughts on the chemtrail cough?
I'm concerned. I believe that we're all infected and that we're going to start seeing what you need to do now is hydrate yourself even more than you think you do. And I think that this easy water might be a supplement you want to look into. I'll be talking. I sent you some white paper on that for you to start researching it. Dr. Jerry Pollack will be talking about structured water on, I think, Rent, and I will get him for you if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I sent him an email. I sent him an email yesterday. If you could make that, if you could make that happen, Rick. Let's talk about easy water next Thursday. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. RichardAllenMiller.com. Richard ALAN Miller.com. Rick, thanks so much for all you do for all of us here at USAPrepares.com. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. Please get involved. Run for office. Any office that you'd like. What happens next is up to you.